Welcome to the Create and Grow Show. I'm your host, Georgi Todorov, and today we are with Amit Raj. We are going to speak about link building with him. That's a great topic because I'm also a link builder in my core. So, Amit, you can expect some pretty challenging questions from me, and I hope it will be a great discussion. Amit is the founder of TheLinksGuy, which is a link building company. He's been doing link building since 2015. He's worked in more than 40 industries and built more than 10,000 high quality backlinks. So this guy is really working at a high scale and volume. Hi, Amit, and thank you for your appearance on my podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Georgie, for having me on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get started with link building?
Yeah, so the interesting thing, my background originally was not in SEO, but I've been in dabbling in SEO, internet marketing since like 2013, I would say. And then come about 2015, that's when I got more interested in SEO, but more specifically link building. And I started to specialize in doing link building just by myself. But I was a pharmacist at one point, like I worked in healthcare for many years. But I kind of got into the internet marketing and then SEO and that side of things. And then I transitioned over to this industry.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Amit, there are a lot of speculations about it. There have been always, but nowadays there are more. Tell me, where does link building fit nowadays, and do backlinks
Mm.
still matter?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, especially after the helpful content update, so much focus on content that obviously people are now starting to question where do backlinks fit? Does it matter anymore? I think we're seeing a lot more of that. I still believe it works, but I think what's changed is obviously the focus on the quality, the relevance, are these the sites you should be building links from? These kind of things I think are becoming more and more important. And I think that's why some people think link building, they think it sometimes doesn't work, but it's maybe the approach to link building that has to change. And perhaps the old game of the volume, taking a volume, only a volume approach isn't good anymore. I think, it's not just about the quantity of links. I think we've kind of established we're now in that kind of age of link building. And it's where the quality is coming to the forefront, and that's you need the quality links to support quality content. And I think content's still very important. It has to
Mm.
match the search intent. That's a given. Like, you need to focus on that, and you need things like topical authority or whatever term you want to use. That's also important. Um, but links still have their place. It's just that you can't do everything with just a volume approach to links anymore. I think we're kind of in that age now. Yeah.
Yeah, so to wrap it up, links are still important and you need them, but you don't need the volume approach with high quantity of backlinks. You need high quality of links. I think it's
Mm,
been for a couple of years more and
yeah,
more valid.
definitely.
I asked because Google representatives recently said that link building backlinks are not even in top three of the ranking factors.
Mm,
But we should take anything they say with with suspicion because
yeah,
they try to not to give randomness.
yeah. And I also think the fact they said it wasn't in the top three ranking factors, um, I agreed with that because I think I would expect that because content has to come first. It needs to be, and I think, the content, has it matched the intent? What is the overall authority of the site? Like, in terms of, is that site an authority in that topic? Things like that, I believe they do need to look at as well. And I also think it's not like it's like not an all or nothing thing. It's not like links are. They said it's not in the top three, but it can't be not in the top three for every situation. I think that's what, and I think that's why that response from Google was a bit simplified. I don't think they were really telling the full story, as you said. I think some cases the links will make a big difference, and in some
Mm-hmm.
cases, it's not really what Google are looking at for perhaps that topic. So that answer from Google was like, in one hand it was correct, and on the other hand it's kind of incorrect. It's like it's too vague. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Mm,
listen, I think that now with GPT and AI content,
mm,
links are even more important because creating content now is super easy and everyone can create fairly good content with GPT-4. And content is the cheapest commodity right now.
mm,
So, what is making the difference between those websites? Of course, UX and website speed, but the biggest difference is the backlinks. So, the more high quality backlinks, the higher authority your website have. You have much better chance to rank within your niche and competition.
mm. Definitely, I think I agree with that, and I think um, with AI content, I think I agree with the fact, obviously there should be a focus on quality, but sometimes just having really good quality content won't be enough. Certain keywords, if it's very competitive, like you said, that's where links are gonna come in. Whether you earn the links naturally, which you should probably have content that can do that, but at the same time, you also want to proactively get them. I think there's no harm in trying to also proactively reach out for links. So yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm. And
mm,
you mentioned the word quality a couple of times. Can you
mm,
tell me what is quality link building actually? Quality
yeah,
links.
yeah, and that's interesting because the term quality is a very it's a very broad term, and a lot of people talk about quality, and nobody ever defines it, and I think it's hard to define, but I think our approach to link building, and I think some of the really top agencies, they all do this kind of approach where I think when you build custom link strategies and you're thinking about what is the business, whether it's the client or your own business, what is relevant to your business, what are the sectors I should be reaching out to, where are my competitors getting links. When you do that, you're having a more relevance focused approach to it, and you're looking at the target audience, what is a crossover sector, what crosses over with the topics that you're writing about. And when you do that, I believe that puts you in the area of more quality focused approach. At the same time, you can introduce things like metrics, so you can look at the traffic, you can filter your list through and look at the traffic level. You can cut down maybe with a baseline metric like DA and DR, but that cuts out the small sites. But even that's not everything, because sometimes a site might have high traffic, but it's not a good quality site. So what we do, and I know maybe a few link builders do this, is where they have manual vetting of the lists as well. I think is
Of
important
course.
because you could have a link farm that looks good on paper, but when you look at it, it's not a legitimate site. But I think the good thing about when you have a very relevance focused approach is you start to get legitimate websites in your list. So corporations or non competing businesses, editorial sites that are in your industry, organizations, these kind of things. That's really the ideally you want to be getting links from these kind of sites, rather than what ends up being, when it's a blog, it doesn't look legitimate, you don't know who's behind it. It basically is link farms, which you want to avoid. So I think it's a difficult thing to define, but I think having metrics that helps in terms of cutting down your lists and getting rid of what you might call junk. But the manual vetting is really what you need. You need some kind of um, human touch on your prospecting process as well.
Absolutely. Even
Mm,
though the website has organic traffic, check the keywords if they are relevant to the business, because the website on the homepage might be about SaaS business or digital marketing, but when see on Ahrefs what they rank for, it might be Windows error or net worth of
mm.
someone who, yeah, you never heard of. So
Bill Gates or
completely
something.
irrelevant
Yeah.
keywords. And you need a human to check all those things. Uh, let's also mention that metrics like DR are super easy to fake. You can go to
Mm,
Fiverr, give $10 to someone to pump up your website with some shitty backlinks, and in 2 3
exactly.
weeks your DR will be to the skies. You mentioned relevancy quite a few times.
Mm,
Don't you think that relevancy in link building is overrated? Because everybody speaks about relevancy, and I think that people understand relevance by getting links from sites with the same topic. But
mm,
actually, relevance might be page relevance. So the website that you are getting links might be on another topic, neighboring topic, and the page that you are getting your link, the blog post, let's say, could be super relevant to your topic. So you are getting this relevancy on a page level, or even you can get it on a paragraph level. What do you think about that?
yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there's different degrees of relevance, obviously, and I think the relevance is used a lot, and I think where it gets kind of misconstrued is when people only look at relevance in terms of um, the anchor text relevance or that sentence is relevant, so therefore that's a relevant link. But as you said, is the page relevant? Is that a topic that makes sense to link to that page? You know, if you go a step further, is the domain itself, is it a business or an industry site that is relevant to your business and that's it? Now that's not always possible. Sometimes it's hard. Let's say we worked with a client in the telecom space, for instance, and if we only tried to get links from telecoms industry news sites, we would run out. There isn't enough to reach out to. Now, we did get some, but then what we tried to say is, well, we also need to reach out to, let's say, the cybersecurity space because
Mm-hmm.
there's more sites there and it's relevant, maybe not at the domain level, but there is some tangential relevance, and we could write a topic which crosses over between telecoms and cybersecurity. So it's a mixed approach. I think you want to have logical relevance, and as much as possible, if the topic is relevant to that topic that you're linking to or that page you're linking to, that's ideal. You want to get that as much as possible rather than, I guess, pigeonholing links in. You don't really want to do that. Even if it's quality site, it just might not be as powerful as it could be. If the crossover was a lot better. Mm,
Yeah, people must know that if they want absolute relevance from on a website level or on domain level, it means that their competitors must link to them,
exactly.
which is
That's right.
almost impossible. Why should your
Mm,
competitors link to you? It
mm,
doesn't make sense. So search for um, neighboring niches and page level relevancy. It still
mm,
works a
mm.
lot.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think, like, sometimes, like you said, and if you go too specific with your relevance, then you can fall into that danger. You won't have a large enough pool of sites to reach out to. So you have to take a more holistic approach and think, what other industries are relevant? Is this sector, that audience, is that relevant to my business? And how do we get, more sites in that industry? So yeah, things like that helps expand the pool of sites you can reach out to.
Hmm. Can you tell me how do you evaluate websites for guest posting, Amit? Do you have a process? What are the things that you check?
Yeah, so I think it probably ties back to when I talked about quality. So I think looking at the niche or the industry of the client. Um, when we build lists related to sectors which we know are crossover with the client's domain, or the topics that they talk about, um, that for us, that puts us in the right space in terms of quality, because we know this is going to be relevant. If not at the domain level, we know we have a topic we can pitch them with that they'll be interested in, because we know there's a logical relevance between, let's say we worked with a client that was in like fashion accessories, and we knew one of the target audiences was people who also get tattoos. So we actually reached out to tattoo studios, which was a very random sector, but we knew it was really good for us. And then we knew that they'd be interested because we had the kind of accessories and we talked about the topics that they would like, because it's that kind of space, and crossover interest. Um, and basically we take that kind of approach where we're really thinking about the audience and the business and thinking, right, what is related and how do we build lists of sites that are related to each of those sectors. And by doing so, funnily enough, what you tend to find is you will cut out a lot of low quality sites when you're really focused on a specific business type or a very specific industry. It will happen when you scrape things in bulk, but again, there's certain things you can do with metrics and human vetting to cut out the kind of junk from the list as well. So by doing that, I guess we can then go into the research phase, which is what content do we pitch those sites with, and we obviously want to approach them with something that we know is relevant. Um, Perhaps we do a content gap, so in other words, what have they not covered, and then we'll pitch a guest post like that. Or it could be like a trending topic that we know is relevant to that sector. Um, so I guess um, that's like our approach, is again focusing on relevance, but you tend to find that cuts, that improves the quality at the same time. Mm.
Are there any red flags or turnoffs that you can mention? For example, let's see, if the website is selling backlinks.
Yeah, I think it's hard to define sometimes. You don't, if they explicitly say that they sell links, like you can't really take the site, because you know that that's essentially just a site set up only for selling links and there's nothing of value. That's what you tend to find. I think the biggest thing, like, and I always have to think, because you've got human vetting, you want it to be as quick as possible. I mean, the biggest telltale sign is the number of categories. I think,
Oh yeah,
we've seen the link farms where you go on and it's like news, entertainment, fashion, home decor, all mixed
yeah,
into
absolutely.
one. Uh,
Travel, lifestyle, cars.
exactly. So I think that's like the quickest way of finding out, because when there's no focus, you tend to find there's no focus because they want to sell links to everybody.
Yeah,
So I think that's the fastest way, is like, if you see that, that's a straight away, like, that's no good. Unless of course some people do have a lot of menu options when it's a legitimate site, but it has to be logically relevant. They might have a news section and a podcast section and things like, that's fine. But I just think when it's like loads of categories that are not related at all and it doesn't make any sense, then that's like the biggest thing I would say. As well as just, um, yeah, the content that has no interrelation, weird topics, like if they seem to be putting a lot of like crypto and casino topics, while there is a legitimate reason to talk about casino topics sometimes, there might be a valid reason for that. Sometimes that's the quickest kind of red flag where you can kind of check a bit deeper, and then you might decide, right, I probably should avoid that site for that reason. But I think the mix of categories is like the biggest one.
yeah, definitely. Those guys
Mm,
that have added different categories to their websites, as you mentioned, very broad categories. They just try to cover as many as possible clients and to sell links to everybody. So
mm,
they are definitely a no-go. And if someone sells links to casinos and gambling websites, it means that they sell links to everyone. And also, you don't want to be in that neighborhood unless
Mm,
you are in that niche, unless you are in the gambling niche.
mm.
So, besides guest posting, what other type of links do you build for your
Yeah,
clients?
so I think it depends sometimes with the client and the topics that they've got, the content or linkable assets. So we take a kind of custom approach. Let's say they have produced their some kind of editorial site, or they have a lot of content that they've produced of high value. Then I think resource link building, resource pages, those kind of things work really well. Because you will find others talking about something related to that, and you can kind of reach out and ask for a link to be inserted, or if this is useful for their audience. At the same time, if let's say you're dealing with a SaaS firm or some kind of like software or tool, then roundups might work really well, because you find that people in that space, they are mentioned in some roundups, and then you can take that idea to find more opportunities which maybe some of your competitors are not in, and try to get a lot of like roundup links. Um, and at the same time, maybe resource pages, being linked on these, kind of useful link or useful resource pages works better for some clients. And that tends to be if they have, I find they've got maybe some kind of calculator or tool, or there's something where there is a crossover with that industry that has these resource pages. So um, I think that, and even things like, I find broken link building's quite an old technique. Doesn't always work, but I tend to find it works better when you're in broad industry, because you've got a higher likelihood of there being like more broken links out there, because the industry is bigger. As long as you have something that's relevant. So I think broken link building not good for everybody, but it sometimes works. Um, and yeah, I think, and one thing I've been trying myself, and I would recommend this to anyone that's just doing link building for themselves. Look in your network and see who you can get links from. For instance, let's say you're part of a chamber of commerce or some kind of business networking group or something, you might find you can get a link from that. Maybe your suppliers, stock, like that kind of thing, you could get a link from them if you're mentioned on their page. And even things like if you use any SaaS tools, or you have hired an agency at some point, let's say, maybe you can have a case study that'll link to you. Or you might find, just by being somebody that uses that SaaS tool, if you reach out with asking to contribute something or to be mentioned, they're maybe more likely to accept it because they know you're a customer. So there's small things like that, you can do as well. But again, that's if somebody's doing it internally, they might prefer to do that themselves.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I heard that you're building a lot of .gov government backlinks. Can you tell me how do you get those links? How do you obtain them?
Yeah. Yeah, so again, and it's like a case by case basis, because for some clients, it might not be suitable, but we've had quite a few clients where we've managed to get links in, be it local government. So if that's the US, every city tends to have like an official page, or at the state level, you do find they have a .gov site as well. And in the UK, we've got local councils, which is like our version of local government, which is also, they tend to use .gov domains. Um, and I think with government, it's very different to other sectors. Like, you can't approach it the same way as like reaching out to the SaaS sector. Things like link exchanges, it's generally not going to work. You can't pay for links because they're not interested. They're not allowed to. And they wouldn't really see any benefit to it either. So with government, basically, I find if you have a resource which helps residents in that region, or if it's something that would be of like some kind of national interest, where you know um, for instance, we worked with somebody in the rehab sector, and they had a really good information source in terms of literature about alcohol abuse, how to, some things about drug abuse, things like that, where to seek help. And we had success getting links from some local government sites, as well as even the NHS and certain health clinics and stuff like that as well. Um, and basically, I think that's what government is basically looking for. It has to be valuable to that audience or local residents. Um, they will want to know more about your business, and because they're always thinking about the commercial aspect, they want to
Mm-hmm.
be thinking, if we endorse this website, is should we be doing that? So they're very careful about what they link to. That's one of the things I noticed. So when you pitch them, you have to be very direct. You need to be very to the point with your subject lines, even because they don't. I don't think the humorous approach works, because
Yeah.
you're reaching out to people in local government. You might be reaching out to secretaries and things like that. So you have to be very to the point. They don't know SEO. They don't know link building. All they're thinking is this going to help my residents? Is this going to help the local area? And when you do take that approach, more of what you might call human approach, not a marketing approach, um, you tend to see more success. Um, so yeah, it depend again. It depends on exactly what you're pitching with, but those are like the principles you have to keep in mind. It's like you're not dealing with a marketer or a content manager. We're dealing with like almost somebody in local government, somebody like a secretary, and that's our approach when we go to very specific sectors, even like universities or schools and things like that. We have to take that more, human approach to it. Of we're here to help them and we have something useful for them. And we have to convince them. And thing with local government is sometimes they might want to have a call or a video call, so you might need to be prepared for that as well.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of resources can you build that the government websites will be
Mm.
interested to link to you?
I tend to find things like calculators. If you have some kind of tool that the kind of general public can use, anything which is like a curated. If you have like a bunch of resources, like let's say your website is very content heavy, you have like a blog or you have a section that has a lot of very useful resources. That section itself is probably something they would link to, because they'd find like it's free, it helps people. Okay, you might be a business and you sell things, but you have something free that people can refer to as well. Anything like that, I tend to find lends itself quite well to resource page link building, and even local government if it's something with enough broad appeal. Let's say it helps people in the senior community, for instance. You tend to find that local government, they might have something aimed at the senior section of the population. So things like that, and even for instance, it works with, like I said, with schools, anything that helps kids or parents and things like that. That can kind of lend itself well to that side of the education sector. So yeah, but I think, again, tools, calculators, games, but other things could work as well. It depends what you've got to leverage.
What about statistics? If you create a poll or a survey and you collect different statistics, you publish a page with all those stats and facts, and you send this to them, maybe they will be skeptical. What do you think?
Yeah, I tend to find with the local government, especially, they might accept a statistic, but what I tend to find is sometimes they like to cite very specific organisations when they cite any kind of study or stats. Sometimes they have their preferred people, and it tends to be, let's say, US. What we noticed about the US and state level government is they're very particular about who they link to for certain things. So they might link to the CDC or very specific, organisations that are they're almost vetted by them.
Yeah.
that we trust them for the statistics. So I think it could work. It depends who you are, basically. But I tend to find, see, when you go to more local, if you go to the smaller cities, it tends to be a bit easier. Like they're a bit more relaxed about those things. But when you go to the bigger cities or state level, it becomes a bit harder. Um, there's more processes and more like departments for them to check. Because they when they add a resource to the website, they have to be very careful before they add it. Mm,
That's what I thought actually. But
mm,
from the other side, statistics posts work very well for the top tier websites. So
mm,
I've got some pretty good backlinks for websites like New York Post, Los Angeles
yeah.
Times, BBC, and those links came to statistic posts that were not even a new study. I just collected existing stats. And when a
Mm,
writer from those top tier websites was writing an article, they went to Google to look for statistics to back up their point, and they pick up one of my statistics and they link to me as the source. Because nowadays on the internet,
mm,
it's almost impossible to find who is the first source of a statistic because so many
true.
other brands rewrote the statistics, collected the statistics in a new post, so it's just impossible to find out the initial source.
Exactly. That's a good approach as well. And I guess that's like having those assets that can earn links is a really good way of doing it. When you, instead of only relying on proactive outreach, it's good to have those kind of things as well. Yeah.
Amit, do you use any of those uh, platforms and tools for surveys and polls, such as SurveyMonkey, Pollfish, to produce
Uh,
statistics?
we don't tend to do a lot of surveys, to be honest, because we don't do a lot of top tier kind of media outreach or anything like that. We do use PR platforms, but that tends
Mm-hmm.
to be writing sound bites and things like that. But surveys we've not actually done a lot of. That's something we're trying to work on this year. But in terms of the media outreach, yeah.
What is your digital PR approach then? I guess that you use those commonly used platforms such as Haro, nowadays Connectively, I think.
Yeah, that's right. We've started using, well, now they're potentially removing the free Harrow newsletter and moving to Connectively. So we're using Connectively, quoted. There's also featured, which is okay sometimes. I think that's the main ones. There is also Source Bottle, which is
Mm-hmm.
based in Australia.
Oh,
I think, and we sometimes look through Twitter now and again. If you can find somebody, you can sometimes get lucky and you find something that's not in Harrow yet. Um, but I think those are the main ones. Again, I think with um, Harrow kind of got, people felt it got a bit difficult last year. I think just because of probably the sheer volume of people using it. I think that probably was a problem. And I don't know if AI pitching was also happening a lot, which doesn't help with the volume of pitches that people get. But I think by them moving into connectively, maybe things will balance out this year if they completely shift over. But I don't. I think we need to see what happens there with
yeah.
connectively.
For
Yeah.
some context to our listeners, now on Connectively, you don't have unlimited number of pitches like before on
Mm,
Haro, which it leads to spamming Haro with GPT created pitches with the lowest
mm,
quality. I remember before, even before the GPT era, I was a source on Haro and I was receiving pitches. And I
mm,
published my query and I expect some relevant pitches. I get 1,000, 2,000 pitches. Maybe 1% of them is slightly relevant, but most of it is just for the link, like loans, mortgages, gardening, all kind of unrelated businesses. And I am looking for SEO specialists. And I can imagine what
that,
happened after Haro. Probably people got 5,000, 10,000 pitches, which is just
exactly.
and
And
now there is 15 pitches per month on Connectively, I think. So you register as a source, you have 15 pitches. So you have to be very picky and use them to the maximum, and choose the most relevant queries, of course.
Mm. And anything above that is going to be paid. Like, you have to buy the credit. So I imagine, that will help. It'll reduce the volume probably. I noticed that anybody at this moment, at the time we're filming this, um, anybody trying to sign up for Harrow can't. I don't think new people can sign up for Harrow. I think they have to open with Connectively. So yeah, it might reduce the volume. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if it improves the quality and the journalists or sources get what they need, then ultimately that's a good thing because that's what it was supposed to be there for. So uh, let's see, maybe it'll improve the success rate for the people that stay on it, and use it properly.
Have you tried it from the other side as a source, as a journalist, maybe
Uh,
to get some more EAT into your content?
I've not done it yet, but I've talked to a few people in kind of media, and in fact, my sister's in media as well. And she herself and what people are saying is they basically won't use they were not using Harrow for a while because of that problem. So they started just trying to get directly to sources themselves. I wonder if that's probably why Cision stepped in at that point. Maybe the feedback coming back from journalists was they didn't really like using it anymore. I think my sister said she put something out and it was like you said, kind of junk coming
Yeah.
back, and then she couldn't use anything 'cause she couldn't sort through it all. Mm,
Yeah, it's just waste of time to go through all
mm,
of those pitches, and at the end of the day, you are spending so much time, so it's just not worth it.
mm. But I
Link
think definitely
builders,
with yeah,
yeah, link builders screwed up another great method.
yeah, that's true. We ruined the internet, as they said.
Yeah, according to some sources.
Yeah.
So, Amit, tell me, what is the biggest challenge in your business and how did you solve it?
I think one of the biggest and this happens with anybody scaling an agency, and I think especially like link building agency, is trying to as you scale up, you need people around you that can also do the job as well as you, or to a good standard. That's the only way you can scale. And I think that was probably a challenge that we had to overcome, and it took a while, but I think we're getting a lot better at it than maybe in previous years. So I think being able to hire the right people um, that are able to handle the work and do it for the long term, because you don't really want to have a lot of churn in your agency. You want to retain your staff. And I think at the end of the day, it's not, if you can't retain everybody, it's not always a reflection on the business. It's just that it wasn't a match. It just, for that person, that wasn't the right job. So I'm not always gonna say that was a bad worker, or that the business was in the wrong. Sometimes it just wasn't a good match, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
something we realised over time. Is sometimes um, when we're recruiting, we have to put certain things in place to ensure we're bringing the right person in and also attracting the right people as well. So I think everything from the job post, the description, to your assessment, like how do you assess your candidate to know that they're going to be suitable, and even the interview stage, things like that, being able to really ask the right questions about why do they want this job, but being able to go a bit deeper as well, to look at transferable skills, because maybe somebody has not been in the SEO link building space, but they're very suitable. I think we've got better at that because most of our team is not from the link building sector. And we actually found, you'd be surprised, there is a lot of transferable skills from other industries that really do suit link building. And I myself am not a marketing ACO background person, so I I understand that.
So I guess that you were speaking about skills as sales, for example. If you're a good salesperson, you'll be a good link builder.
I think so. I think that and even some for some people in sales, even link building might not be suitable, but it might help them for things like outreach because they know to close leads fast. They're aggressive. They're chasing leads up and things like that. But at the same time, it's also a bit of a shift because they're not put. They don't want to be too pushy, and sometimes in sales, you have to be a bit aggressive, which in link building sometimes you don't want to be that much. So, but I think you're
Hmm.
right. I think certain things in terms of transferable skills, even content writers, they might suit for link building, but it is also very different because there's a lot of creativity involved in content writing. So that person they might not like link building. So again, comes down to the person as well. I think you know.
Where do you recruit your link builders?
Yeah, so we've tried a lot of the remote job platforms, but ultimately it does take some volume. I think you basically have to. Um, I think especially these days, I think having a good kind of employer brand, whether it's employer or you hire contractors, I think giving people an idea of what the culture's like, what is the work going to be like, what is uh, giving them some sense of what they'll be walking into and will they get support, will they get training, things like that. I think if you can offer that, it's easier to attract people. And at least if you are bringing candidates from like remote job platforms, let's say you've got the job posts out, you're getting the right people to apply because there's a lot of people looking at a lot of jobs and they're not applying to everything. Um, so I think really there's many platforms that can work. To be honest, we've sometimes just put a job post out on LinkedIn and somebody just found it and then click and they weren't from a remote job platform. They just kind of organically found it and then found us. I think the remote job platforms helps in terms of your reach. But ultimately, I think whatever you can do to attract candidates somehow, that's really going to help you. And as well as having some kind of assessment of some sort within your recruitment process, I think is important because you do need to filter the candidates because not everybody's suitable for the job. Is just a reality of even if somebody's keen, they need to have the skills to do the job, and
What
that's
is
where it's. Mm.
your number one rule when you are filtering candidates for link building positions?
Um, I think it depends on the role. I think there needs to be some kind of depend if it's for instance an outreach role, there needs to be some kind of transferable skill that they can bring. Not necessarily that they've done outreach, but like you said, have they been in sales? Have they been in some kind of agency setup? Um, Something like that, and it was for quite a decent amount of time. I think those kind of things are essential. And sometimes somebody with no experience at all, let's say they just came out of university, you could still give them a shot, but there needs to be some logical reason why they're applying for the job. And I think those kind of things you can find out at the interview stage. So I think at the interview stage is where you really want to ask them why you're applying to this,
Yeah,
and that's not always easy to quantify, but you can kind of know when you ask somebody the question, how much do they need this job? So
absolutely,
I
Amit.
get, I guess what I'm saying is motivation and hunger. Sometimes that's hard. That's hard, but you really want to look for that. Yeah.
I can't agree more with you
Mm,
because actually link building is not so easy, and every day you have to have perseverance, and you should chase links, you should message many people, you should do outreach, you should follow up. You can't just chill. I mean, it's not a chilled
mm,
job where you go and you go into a few meetings, ha ha ha, drink a few cups of coffee. Every day you are working hard, so you should have a reason, a strong reason why you should want this job.
exactly.
Yeah,
Mm,
link building is for hardworking people, but it's well paid and it helps.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's not an easy job. So again, I think that was that's the reason why we don't always look for somebody in SEO because there's a lot of hardworking people that work in other industries, and they might have a compelling reason to want to work. They're just really interested in digital marketing and they want to get into it. And those kind of things. So
Are most of your link builders based in the UK at your office, or you hire remotely in other countries? And if yes, which are those countries that you find
yeah,
your
so
talents?
so we hire basically from quite a few. We've hired over the years from quite a few countries. So it's a completely remote team. Most of our team, I would say, is in India. Generally speaking, most of the team's in India, but we've also got somebody in Eastern Europe. We've had a few people in Eastern Europe actually as well. South Africa, Philippines. Um, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of places, where there's a lot of hardworking people, and there's good candidates everywhere. Really, I think for your own agency and your own business, I think the one advice is um, think about things like time zones and the shifts that you'll be working and things like that, and because that might dictate where you hire from. For instance, for us, it would be hard to hire somebody from, let's say, the US side, let's say whether the North America or South America, just because their time zone would be so different to the rest of the team. Um, so yeah, I would say most of our team is kind of like India, Philippines, that side.
Yeah, as
Mm,
you said, time zones. So probably as you are based in London, and you go down into
yeah,
Africa, and you look for those English-speaking countries such as Gambia and South Africa and Nigeria. So they're at your time zone, maybe 1 hour difference,
very similar.
and
Yeah,
they speak great English, I guess, and the
yeah,
economy
yeah.
there is not very good. So you
Mm,
can get a great link builder for 1/4, 1/5 of the UK salary, I
yeah,
guess.
exactly. Yeah, and like you're kind of beating the local rates in a lot of cases. So at the same time they're beating the local salaries. I would say. Um, and at the same time you're getting people that are motivated to want to do the work, and they've got the skills in terms of things like the reality is English comprehension and writing skill has to be great wherever you hire from, if that's the market you're dealing with. So that is one of the things that we do look for as well. So yeah, but
That's a
I think
great
for every
strategy
agency, yeah.
to hire someone from such country and offer them double than the
Mm,
average that this person can find in their country. So he will be extra motivated to get links for you and your company.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Amit, tell me, what is your advice to those people who don't have any experience with link building, but they would like to start for one reason or another? Maybe they want to build links to their own projects, their own websites, or maybe they want to work in the industry as link builders, find a client, or find a job as a link builder. Zero experience. What are the next steps? What to do?
Mm. The way I started, and it's kind of like a non answer, but um, I think you have to start by doing the link building end to end yourself. I think that's a given. I think you have to know the entire process inside out, from the prospecting, scraping data, how you would vet them, contact finding, doing the outreach is very hard work. I think you have to start there first. And when I started, like I wasn't charging a lot, and I was probably like minimum wage basically. Um, uh, and sometimes you might have to pick up a little bit of free work, do some favors for a few people, do a little bit of free work so you can build up some kind of case studies or testimonials or something. Especially if you're trying to do this for clients, I would say that's probably one way. It's not the only way to start, but I think that's one way to start. Um, and it's going to take time to get better at link building. There isn't really, you could work in an agency and that'll kind of, you can learn the ropes that way, but it is ultimately going to take time to get better at it. So I think the best way is like keep learning, keep trying to do link building, because it's, you can learn the theory, but the best way to get better at it is to just keep doing it. Just keep. It's like that thing about, we need 10,000 hours of something to be an expert. And maybe it's more than 10,000 for link building, but yeah, just I think that's my advice. And if, let's say, somebody has a day job, see if you, and this is what I did, like kind of more specific advice is like, if you want to start doing link building or SEO for clients, like maybe cut down your day job to part time hours, or ask your manager, can I do, instead of full time, can I cut it by this many hours and spend the rest of that time in maybe SEO and link building, so you're not completely leaving your day job and you're having some time to focus on that as well. That's maybe one way of doing it, and having some kind of work life balance at the same time as well.
Practice, yeah, like everything
Yeah.
else, focus on practice, and that's all. After a couple of months, you'll have great progress. Actually, I had one person who started from scratch, from zero. He has never built a single backlink in his life. It took him 1 year full time. I hired him full time for my projects. And after 1 year, he's completed. I mean, he can do everything. Now he has his own clients. So, yeah, for some people, it may take 1 year. For other people, it may take 6 months. It depends on the person, but it takes consistency, practice, and a lot of hours, like everything
Mm,
else. Amit, I
exactly.
think
Yeah.
that was all, but did I ask you everything? Maybe I missed a question. What do you think?
Um, I think that was everything. I'm trying to. Um, yeah, I think that was it. Unless there was anything else or any. I guess there's some things with link building right now. We need to wait and see what happens now. I think link building's still important. I think, even
Yeah,
with this helpful content update, I know a lot of people are nervous about, SEO right now and what's happening, but I'm still confident link building has its place. I don't see it going, you know, anywhere uh, in terms of importance.
I agree with you, and I'm going to build many links to my projects for the next couple of years. I think
Exactly.
maybe for 10 years at least it will be a very important Google ranking
That's
factor.
right. That's
Thanks a
right.
lot for being a guest on the Create and Grow show. Please tell our listeners where to follow you, where they can find you, maybe buy your services, and etc.
Yeah, definitely. So you can get my agency on TheLinksGuy.com. We've got, like, our services explained there. We've got a really good blog section if they want to go through that. And you can get me on LinkedIn. It'll be linked on my website, or Instagram at TheLinksGuy if you want to follow us there as well.
I will put all of those links in the show notes so you can find Amit, the links guy, super easily and get in touch with him. Thanks, Amit, and have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Mm.
Bye bye.